because this was a picture that showed a lot of her body, but nothing dirty or not showing her private parts, not her breast or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I wanted people to know that it's something that I would do myself. So I showed a picture where I wasn't naked, but the angle of the picture made it look like I wasn't wearing anything underneath, right? So, I mean, it was just suggestive of being natural without actually exposing anything. It wasn't titillating, it wasn't dirty in any way, shape, or form.
It wasn't titillating. I mean, people found it titillating. You know that even though, I mean, Ghanaians, we are in different stages of undress regarding culture. There are certain tribes where they could dress a little bit like your wife, or even less, with less clothing than your wife, beads and all sorts, for dancing, for, cultural purposes. But you took this photo with your wife and you in a sort of a clinch, which for a conservative country, it seemed a little bit too much for them to bear. So they were up in arms about it. And that was,
for some people, really, really welcomed and were happy about it. And I've had a lot of comments and praises about it. A lot of people thought it was beautiful, thought it was arty, and thought it was bold, though. And being bold is not a crime, Yeah.
I saw.
And I mean, if
I actually saw a video on YouTube about a lady who has a show, and she actually said, she woke up in the morning to find this picture of her uncle. Ghanaians call you uncle. So they were quite shocked.
Uncle Ben, yes.
Uncle Ben, they were very stunned to see this picture of you and your new wife. And they were quite, they were distressed because they felt that as a role model and as somebody who they held in high esteem, how could you do such a thing? What can you say to her? Because she did ask that question.
Well, what I can say to her is that there was no point, or there was no reason for her to get distressed because I wasn't naked. I mean, people come on TV and actually show their private parts. I didn't do any such thing. What I did was, in fact, some people were telling me that the trouble with the picture is that a lot of people wanted to undress me.
Oh.
They were just wondering in their mind what it would look like if they only could have moved the clothes, the dress, the piece that I'm wearing. And somebody even suggested that she could imagine how my thing was dangling all over.
No. Let's not go there. This is we have very decent people listening.
This is something that those who appreciate it see that I'm projecting the naturalness of the African person, African people, how they don't hide their body. Doesn't mean that they throw their private parts about, but how probably because of the nature of the climate in Africa, people dress scantily, and there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, there's nothing wrong with the human body, as shown. But, I also wanted to, you see, if you look at the costume that I was wearing, it's a very simple thing that I actually made at home, for both me and my wife.
You made the costume. You are also quite creative enough to make, wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
You've
got, a very simple
I think
concept.
There's a caller on. Let's see. Oh, it's gone off now. Sorry. I see the light flashing and then I go to it and then it goes off. But I mean, caller, you can call again.
Yep.
So I didn't know you were that creative to make the costume and all of that just for a photo shoot.
Candy, when I was in the university
Mm-hmm.
in Legon,
Yeah.
I made a suit for myself. I sewed it in my room to attend my aunt's wedding.
Wow.
Okay, because I couldn't afford to go and buy one. Okay, and also I made clothes, African designs that I sold to my friends.
I see.
Yeah. So I mean, it's no big deal. This doesn't even involve any sewing.
You didn't. It was very small material, just draping over yourself and all of that. But I mean, is it what I wanted to ask was, is it something that you both agreed to do, or you coerced your wife into it, or you suggested it and she said
no. I
fine?
didn't coerce
Or
my wife. In fact, it was my wife's idea.
Wow.
Because my wife buys into. I mean, we share the same passions about the Ghanaian and African culture.
Okay.
And you see, if people will take their minds out of the gutter, they will see the beauty of the beads, the dressing, the makeup, and everything, the clothes. So it's just a question of how you choose to see it. Okay, there's nothing titillating or sexy about it. It is all a question of tasteful, arty, photos.
Okay.
And a lot of people see it that way. I mean,
you were saying, carry on.
I'm saying that from all the reactions I got,
yeah,
I could see certain trends. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
For instance, this nudity versus art issue comes in a lot. Now, people, as soon as they see any too much body,
yeah,
they think about nudity, but they forget that art transcends that. Okay.
Yeah,
you're supposed to look at it.
I think one of it is what I need you. I understand what you're saying, but what I also need you to understand, it's fine. You've trailblazed a lot of things, and this is one of the things that you feel that you need to push forward and trailblaze on. And
that's right.
That is good. But the point I am making is that Ghanaians are having problems with certain things. Ghanaians are very conservative. It's a Christian country. They all get up and go to church on a Sunday. They are all kind of not that, I mean, they feel that it is personal and private, and therefore this kind of thing should be private for you. In fact, there is nothing wrong with you taking that picture and leaving it in your living room, and when your guests come, they can see it. That's also fine. But I think that for them, it was a shock merely because they see you in one way. You understand? And then you suddenly...
Yeah, they have a certain perception.
They have a perception of you. That's perfect and correct. And and then you kind of shock them. So that's where the problem is. Maybe you should have done it gently and prepared them that this is the way I'm going to go from now on, and I'm going to do artistic things. And nobody knows about your creativity with sewing or that sort of thing. So that's also another issue that we have to look at. Because now we do know.
No, yeah, but you see, I think I just needed to encourage people to be much more cultural in their thinking.
Okay.
And much more natural and straightforward in their outlook.
Okay.
I see a lot of people are very stiff, and they believe that a good life means that you have to be so prude and this and that and that and that. But that is not necessarily so. We have to know who we are, and we have to understand where we're coming from. it is a very important aspect of our lives. When, for instance, we pretend to be foreigners in our own country, when we can relax and be ourselves. And this is just a microcosm of the real big issue about even governance, about how we conduct things in our country that is getting us nowhere. So it is a deliberate thing to try and let people see that there's nothing wrong with being a true Ghanaian. Okay.
Yeah.
And I also try to show other examples. Yeah. Okay. Go on.
I wanted to ask you that when you make songs, when you're singing, do you talk about these governance, the people being foreign or wanting to embrace foreign life and all of that? Is it in your lyrics? You see, because if it were in your lyrics, and this is what you felt strongly about, like, for example, in Nigeria, Fela was singing about the teachers, the government, any issue political that he felt strongly about, he would sing it in his music. And Bob Marley, in fact, so have you started doing it? Because you see, as I'm saying to you, this was a baptism of fire. You're singing nice love songs and, all of this. And then
please, if you listen to
your
lyrics,
words, yeah,
you know where I'm coming from. Because I mean, like one of my songs, Etei, is about us being real Ghanaians.
Okay.
And it's actually calling upon a traditional God to come and save us from all this folly of, pretending to be foreigners. I mean, there's a lot of things that I say. I say, you lie to yourself that you are better than your own people just because maybe you can speak English or you're educated or you've been decultured into dressing and living and behaving like, an European.
Yeah.
I talk about all these things. I talk about attitude towards sex, how the male, tries to dominate the women, and how when it takes two people to have a relationship, but the woman is always seen as the dark and dirty, and the man is praised to high heaven for being macho.
Okay.
I talk about all kinds of things, but you find the fundamental theme in my lyrics that I'm talking about us going back to our roots and evolving from there, rather than trying to jump ship and get caught in the middle where we don't know where we're going.
I see.
Yes.
I'm. This is very impressive because maybe. You've got a caller. You actually have a. Hello, caller.
We never had a chance to get anything.
Yeah, it's not coming on, and I haven't got the time to be fiddling about with things. I've had big problems just trying to set myself up. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
How is your show going? Because we haven't been able to hear anything.
Oh, you. Okay. We're in the flow, so maybe afterwards I'll send you a copy of it.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's actually talking. Unless you want to ask him a question.
Well, and be authentic. And if he's being authentic, is he feeling very happy about what he's doing?
You're fine with it.
I'm happy with it because if he's being authentic, is he comfortable and is he really being authentic with himself?
I'll put the video up, and then you can watch it and hear what his words and what he means by it. But he's gonna answer you in a minute. Hold on one sec. Did you hear the caller? Hello,
Yeah,
Ben.
I heard it most. Yeah, I heard most of it, but I couldn't hear what the question was about.
Okay, the question was that if you are comfortable in your, she says she's not judgmental, and if you are comfortable in yourself and you are not you're not pretending and you're being authentic, then she's fine with it. So are you authentic? That's what her question was.
Yeah, I believe I'm very authentic. I believe that I'm following my passions. I think that my philosophy in life is reflected in my work and my sayings, and my interviews. So I'm very, very comfortable with it, I mean, people might have different perceptions, but, these are people who have not actually followed me, listened to me carefully, or, have a wrong perception of me, as if I was trying to project, a sort of lifestyle which is not real for me, I mean, I'm not a killer or a murderer or anything, but I try to live my life so that I have fulfillment. I think that if you have fulfillment and you are true to yourself, you are doing things, in praise of God, and that's what I'm doing.
That's good. I mean, the whole idea is the question that people needed to ask, because I saw on your Facebook page when I was trying to find out what was going on, there were a few men who, it was men. The women, funnily enough, were okay with it, but the men had gone into high heaven, and they were in huge, and they were arguing with you, and you were answering back.
Yes. I mean, there were quite a few people who were
the men,
misguided and making some wrong, deductions, which, I mean, it was totally out of order. But, when people are get the wrong end of the stick, you have to try and steer them to the right path. And unfortunately, those who get it totally wrong do not have the level of understanding that you can even guide them back, because they are set in their ways. They're not open. So, I mean, you have people like that, and you have to learn to live with them. So, I know it doesn't really bother me that much,
I see. I've listened to you, and you've made your point. You have every right, as you said, it's your prerogative. You have every right to take these photos. As to whether putting it on social media, some people felt that you did this to be current, to be relevant now, so that people, you were causing a storm. People will see and then think, hey, that's Ben Brako. He's back again. Or you had a CD coming up, and or you had some music coming up, an album coming up, and you needed to titillate and shock. So, I mean, it could be anything. The point is that if it is none of those, but it is just an attack on the social norms of Ghanaians, which you feel that is too much, then, that's a whole different ball game. Because, you see, in things like this, this Garden of Eden photo that you took, if you were somebody who is constantly telling us that we really should go back to our roots, maybe you get a chance, you get a microphone, you go to an interview, TV interview, radio interview, whatever, the minute you get the platform, you tell people that, look, I think you guys, you are just too stuck up, and you really should open your eyes.
I think a lot of the media people who know me and have had interviews with me know about this clearly, and a lot of times they get surprised that they didn't know. They regard it as being radical.
Yeah.
But for me, there's nothing radical about it.
Okay.
I think that being real with yourself, and knowing yourself as a person, and living an examined life should inform your actions. And those who have listened to my music know that I talk about this. I talk about this all the time. I talk about going home and being real. I talk
being
about the
part
joys of our culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is nothing new for me, but people see me and they think that I'm such a gentleman, which I am. But gentleman has nothing to do with, your social outlook, or how you choose to present yourself. You can
Yeah.
have a fraternity, somebody who dresses very traditionally, and they're gentlemen. You can have a lot of people in all the top suits, and they're really big rascals. You know,
Yes, yes, you are
they're not
right.
they're no gentlemen. Yeah, so it's nothing to do. Some of the perceptions have a very, very wrong basis. But I can't help that. I can only try and encourage people to be real, yeah, and to be informed by their ancestry and their culture.
Yeah, ancestry and culture. I'm loving this. This is very interesting because one of the things which I think that Ghanaians actually, when they're outside, when they come out of their own, the Ghana, they embrace their culture more than people who are in it. They take it for granted. So maybe because you're well traveled, you have this need, this strong need. Because if you notice, the people who complained a lot are the men who are in Ghana. It's not the men outside or the women outside. So does that tell you something? Is it that your crusade is, this is your crusade, and your crusade is actually for the people of Ghana? Do you view it as a crusade in the first place?
Can you excuse me 1 second? 1 second. 1 second. Yeah. Hello. Yes. No. You see, let me explain this to you.
Okay.
I've been like this since I was at least in the university.
Okay.
And my outlook about being Ghanaian and my love and devotion for our culture and how our people going away from the culture has helped in keeping Ghana in the dark rather than in the light. You understand? I've been like this long before I came to stay outside. So in fact, one of my professors at the university is the one who led me on the path.
Okay.
When I heard him speak and how he conducted himself, and I was very impressed. Yeah.
Your professor actually, what exactly did he do? Because when you say on the path, you haven't actually explained what path you mean.
Well, I'm saying that, you see, when you go to the educational institutions in Ghana, what they do is actually to indoctrinate you to be as un-Ghanaian and as unnatural as possible.
Okay.
They make you look upon your own as primitive, dark, and worthless. Okay. So here I am in the university. They have at that time they had all kinds of things, and we had meetings with our hall masters and stuff. And everybody comes dressed in a suit and stuff, and the hall master himself comes dressed, in a very Ghanaian style, and then in conversations, I hear him saying all kinds of things that I can see that he's well informed. He has examined himself, and he knows why he's dressing like this. He knows why he behaves like this. He knows why he eats like this. So I say, wow, that really touched me. That how can a Don in a university, the same institution that's training us to be like English gentlemen or that kind of thing, behave in such a way, and I saw the wisdom in his ways. It's called Dr. Asaripuku.
Okay.
So it set me thinking.
Yeah.
And then I realized that, that was part of my passion. Because all that time, I considered myself as a creative person, as a musician, as a songwriter, and that kind of thing.
Do you know?
So I've always, for a long time, been like that.
Yeah. The interview is about to end. However, I think it has been quite enlightening. And I also think that, do you have anything to say to end this show? Do you have a final sentence or something, a few words to cover, to kind of bring out this feeling of, I don't know, say something to the people to appease them
Well,
for.
what I want to say is,
Yeah.
as we are being as a country,
Mm-hmm.
the way we are being governed and the way we are running our lives is very ridiculous, and there's a big divide, between those so-called elite and educated,
Mm-hmm.
and then the normal people of Ghana who have been disenfranchised, and we're not able to carry them along with us to create any development or evolve the country. I think that it's ridiculous for a country like Ghana to have English as a lingua franca. I think that the national anthem being in English is a disgrace. You understand? I think the pledge being, because most people you meet on the street cannot recite the pledge or tell you the words of the national anthem. What does it mean to them? It doesn't mean anything to them.
You mean they don't
I think that
understand
is
it because it's in
They
English?
don't understand it
Mm-hmm.
because it's in English.
Okay.
And you find that once people start addressing issues in Chi,
Mm-hmm.
you get to many more people than if you keep addressing people in English.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
The show is
I mean,
about
we should
to
open our eyes.
the show is about to end on the radio, but you can carry on for 5 more minutes afterwards. So, because you are on Facebook. So, I'm going to say bye-bye to the listeners who are on the radio. And I'm going to, have a copy of this and forward it. So that if you missed the last 5 minutes of it, because we had a bit of a struggle setting up and the sound, we couldn't hear each other. So bye-bye, be well. Now, you can carry on with what you were saying, Ben.
So what I'm saying is that the people who are governing us, who are running the country,
Mm-hmm.
I think they are taking us for a big ride. I think that even MPs and all these people, they are exceeding their remits by far too much. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
The things that they demand
Mm-hmm.
to do the job, which doesn't help the country because we are not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too much, taking too much out of the national cake, and because they feel that they want to be like their foreign counterparts,
Mm-hmm.
and they are not responsible to the people of Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of Ghanaians are in the same mood, and it's wrong. We have to check ourselves, to listen to ourselves, to see ourselves, and see that we are really in a mess.
We are in
We're
a
in
mess.
trouble, and we don't even know it. So that's what I've got to say for now.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you. We have to do this again, but we can talk about other things, not necessarily the photo, because by the time you're back, we would be used to you taking, because it looks like you're going to take some more, which is fine. So thank you so much, Ben Brako, for coming on. And I'm sorry, I have to apologize for the beginning of the show where, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Candy,
yeah.
Thank you, too. And I think that you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you.
More grease to your elbows, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, my people, we have listened to Ben Brako. A lot of people mentioned and said all sorts of things regarding their feelings on the photo. Ben Brako has explained to us that that is what he wanted to do, and that is what he has done. In this world, I think that as a grown-up, you have your choices to do, but it's where you take it, really, and how far you want to shock. So next week, we're going to talk about politics, and we're talking about people in the diaspora, their relationships with their MPs, and what you get out of it, what you should do. And we're going to, every second Wednesday of the month, we're going to discuss political issues and try and help people. I'm going to have someone here who's going to help you with your questions. So from next week, call in and tell us what your problems are, and we'll talk about it. I don't know if we'll try and solve it, but we'll definitely talk about it. Thank you so much for listening. I am very grateful, because without you, I would not have a show. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Be well.